Hey there. May 25th, 2020. It's the day that America cringed. And the reason why that is because a gentleman by the name of George Floyd was publicly lynched. Yeah. I'm sure you all know by now, and I'm sure you all are aware of all the protesting that's going on nationwide. I've even heard that people in other countries are protesting on behalf of what happened to Floyd. And what people don't realize is that the man was lynched. I mean, we're talking about an act of police brutality that's so wicked that even a huge amount of white folks, no offense if you're a white person watching this, but I'm not trying to imply that all of y'all are evil, but even white folks collectively was like, God dang. And they came out in droves to protest this crap. And what's so crazy about this situation is that the man was obviously subdued. He couldn't move. And so you got this white police officer, the leader of this lynch mob. He's kneeling on this guy's neck. And it had to be with his full weight. I mean, the guy has got his hands in his pocket, just looking out, surveying the crowd with a smirk on his face, gloating that he's in a process of killing a man. When you think about lynching, I mean, I'm speaking vicariously, of course. What's the difference between that man's knee putting greater and greater pressure on this man's neck and a rope that's gradually squeezing, making tighter an individual's esophagus to where he can barely get air in? What's the difference? And another thing is, like, you have other police officers. The man is crying out for air, basically begging for his life, helpless. Police officers sworn to protect and to serve, and they're showing all the semblance of a group of bandits robbing a bank. The Chauvin character, he's like the guy that's in there with the gun. And these other guys, like in particular that Asian character, standing there on lookout, on guard just to make sure the cops ain't coming. How about that? Kind of ironic, huh? That was a lynching, folks. And it was an act so horrific that I saw a few videos on social media, videos made by white police officers that were condoning this act, telling certain other police officers to turn in their guns and hang it up because they're making the job for them more dangerous than what it should be and more deadly. Because, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, because they have no souls. People like this Derek Chauvin guy, we got to get over trying to preach to these people, trying to say you should know better or you should learn from history or what have you. I mean, some people just don't have souls. I mean, what's interesting is that people are born with birth defects, and oftentimes, it's attributed to some kind of physical malady. And then there are mental disabilities as well. Why do you think that is? Folks, some people are spiritually disabled, and there's nothing you can do for a spiritually disabled person except remove them from society. You know, just lynching, it's a kind of a reality check for a lot of our young black men and women that did not have, were not privy to witness some of the things or go through some of the things that our elders had to go through. And it's a reality check. It's a heck of a reality check. I mean, some of these guys, like this Derek Chauvin guy, and it's just a thought. I mean, the police need to check these guys. I mean, they have departments called internal affairs. They need to go through these guys' records. And, you know, guys that have histories of complaints, like this guy supposedly had, histories of mistreatment of citizens. And they need to find these guys. I mean, granted, probably all police officers will have some kind of complaint. I mean, and a lot of them are just doing their jobs, and people resent that they're not allowed to act bad or be naughty, and so they complain. And but I'm not talking about that. Those officers, I don't think, have histories to the extent that this Chauvin guy supposedly had or has. And they should pull these guys and put them, I don't know, through some kind of extensive mental deprogramming. You know, kind of like MK Ultra, some kind of anti-racist boot camp. And then, for safe measure, if they get a job back with the city, just make them a meter maid. Just don't give them a gun. Don't give them a gun. Don't give them handcuffs. Don't give them anything that can be used as a weapon against innocent people. And I gotta tell you, it's my personal belief. Evil, if allowed to exist, it's gonna escalate. It's gonna escalate. And what I mean by that is this. I was watching the news today, and in my city, they had the police station was surrounded. A wall of police officers. It looked like it had to have been the whole entire freaking police force surrounding the police station, and these protesters were out there, and it got a little bit rowdy. I mean, they said that the news reporters were saying that water bottles were thrown and other such objects were thrown. The police had guns, and they supposedly had rubber bullets in these guns, and they fired at the crowd a couple of times. But that should tell you something. That should tell the police something. I mean, it's weird because the reporter quoted a police official and said that they're doing whatever they're doing just to keep the public safe. I'm like, how you figure? I mean, the whole public is in unison rallying against you. What do you mean keep the public safe? I don't see that. That didn't make sense to me. But these people are out there, man, and they are in police departments as police officers. They gravitate to these types of jobs on purpose, just to execute their evil on people that they hate. I mean, pedophiles, gay pedophiles. They'll become Cub Scout leaders just to do what they do. I mean, I don't mean to call one single group of people out, but I'm just trying to make a point. These evil people gravitate toward these kind of jobs just so they can have that privilege to be evil and justify it by saying they are the law. And again, if evil is unchecked, especially by entities like police departments, and granted, I give Minnesota a little credit just for now, that they charged this guy with murder so quick, but third-degree murder is not enough. I mean, that should be capital murder. We're talking about a public lynching, people. The man was lynched. And that's why all of America collectively cringed, and that's why you see so much destruction right now. This guy set us back, more than 50 years. This guy set us back all the way back until the days of the slave trade, the plantation days. And evil will escalate if the police departments don't root out their evil. It's going to escalate. You think you were helpless and the government had to call in the National Guard and state troopers to assist you? And I'm talking to the police departments collectively, particularly the department where I live. At some point, and this is what evil does, it multiplies and it gets worse over time. Kind of like when I was a kid and you had beef with somebody, you might fight it out, and after that you live to see another day. And oftentimes kids I had fights with, we became friends. It's different. Why is it different now? Because evil evolves. What we had to go through as kids is different than what young people go through now. I mean, it just graduated and escalated from fighting with knives to full-fledged shootouts, drive-bys, and that kind of thing. And it's the same principle if the police don't root out its evil. At some point, more and more people will begin to bear arms. And I'll just let that sink in, because guns and water bottles are two different things. Can you imagine the number of people that were throwing these water bottles at the law if they had guns and decided to shoot instead? I'm just telling you, man. Evil has a way of exploding if you don't put it in check. It really does. I don't know. But the police need to pull the records of these repeat offenders. And what I mean by that, these repeat officers that are getting complaints prolifically, and do something about it. There should be a statute of limitations. If they get so many complaints for such and such various reasons, you got to let them go. They don't deserve to wear a badge. They just don't. Anyway, we'll get through this. And until the next episode, unless the police department do something, another Derek Chauvin is gonna come along. And it's probably gonna be worse. Like I said, evil tends to evolve and escalate than even what Mr. Floyd had to go through. Rest his soul. The police needs to do something. Anyway, thank you for listening. Subscribe to the Spiritology Television Network. Share the link if you know anybody that appreciates or would appreciate these kind of talks, discussions. Most of the time they're of a spiritual nature, but this kind of event is just too horrific and blatant to ignore. And in a way, I mean, it was kind of a spiritual lesson, but I think until people understand how to recognize other folks that have spiritual defects, like they can recognize physical and mental disabilities, we might be in for a long run. But again, thank you. God bless. Rest in peace, George Floyd. Subscribe to the Spiritology Television Network on YouTube. Be safe.